this time. So let me just begin by welcoming everyone. They say that you don't have to control your thoughts. You just have to stop letting them control you. So hello everyone, I'm Vatsala, and on behalf of my organization, My Family Services, I welcome you all to this webinar on decoding your mind in a digital world. May being the month of mental health awareness, we thought of bringing this very relevant topic to you and starting the conversation. Mental health problems don't define who you are. They are just something that you experience. So before we hand it over to our amazing Dr. Farha Abbasi and our wonderful, passionate youth coordinator, Eva Tyagi, let me just go through a few slides for our organization just to make you aware. So My Family Services is an organization which provides support when you need it most. It is a non-profit South Asian organization serving individuals and families in domestic violence and abuse through prevention and intervention program. It seeks to raise awareness and provide support services in the areas of partner and family violence, substance abuse, mental health, and senior issues through confidential, non-judgmental, and culturally sensitive programs and services. The organization has served over 1,000 individuals since 1986 and continues to work with the community and its partners in delivering direct services, resources, and tools. We also have been granted the CSU State Grant, which is a state-funded program and is free to the survivors of domestic violence. The empowerment classes include English as a second language class, financial literacy class, computer skills class, and soft skills or job readiness course. We also started the My Family Services Golden Club, which is a service offered to our seniors ages 60 plus in Southeast Michigan who need support and help with essentials. Though there are many senior clubs, Golden Club is unique because it is completely free of charge and guided by trained and certified social workers of My Family Services. My Family Services holds educational workshops for the community, raising awareness about domestic abuse and family abuse, as well as mental health awareness. And this is a part of the same series. So before I hand you over, I just wanted to mention a few housekeeping tips. We will have everyone muted while the session is on, but we encourage you to put your comments and questions in the chat. I have Lalita with me to monitor the chat and will be taking up the questions to Dr. Farha. We would probably also ask you to unmute yourself at time when we are engaging with you. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. We welcome you to revisit the content and also share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel as well so that you can get your updates. Now, moving on to our wonderful, passionate youth moderator, Eva Tyagi. Eva is a high schooler in Metro Detroit who is interested in the intersection of technology and social advocacy, including the mental health struggles she and her peers face at school. She has previously facilitated workshops on microaggressions and their harmful impacts. Take it away, Eva. The stage is all yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eva Tyagi, and I will be helping to moderate today. But before we start, I want to say thank you to you all for joining. And I just want to give a little introduction of why we are conducting this webinar. Mental health is just two little words, but those two words have an impact on every part of our lives, including our physical health, relationships with other people, and our own daily functioning and well-being. Mental health is something that has been widely disregarded and looked over for a long time, but its impact needs to be truly realized. It is more than just being sad or anxious. It can literally cause people to take their own life. This is why thinking in our community needs to shift from mental health being considered taboo to treating people who struggle with mental health like treating someone with a physical illness, with lots of support and love. It is so important to take care of your own mental health, especially since the pandemic, when mental health started declining globally. Because of this, I want to applaud and introduce Dr. Farha Abbasi, a professor at Michigan State University in the Department of Psychiatry and a core faculty member of the Muslim Studies program, who will be presenting on why this mental health discussion is very needed. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Abbasi. I will pass it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eva, for that amazing introduction. It just warms my heart to see youth getting more and more engaged with mental health, wellness, and mental illnesses. First of all, my heartfelt gratitude to my family services for the amazing work in the field, in the realm of domestic violence, mental health, culture. We are all caught on that intersection. And I think a lot of times in South Asian communities, things are normalized or kind of made to be accepted and accommodated in name of culture, religion. And I think it is high time that we break the silence and we talk about those issues openly. And why I say that right now, the statistics, when we look at South Asian communities, the statistics are very scary. The depression, anxiety, suicide rate, substance abuse, everything is spiraling. And it is a time to hit the pause button and take a step back and think like, why is this happening? So I would touch on few of the things, and hopefully I'm hoping to have more interactive conversation with you all and answer your questions rather than me coming and just showing you numbers and slides. I think, first of all, the word digital time period that we are living in has its own set of connotations, problems, solutions. On one hand, it's a good thing, right? We saw in COVID that if we did not have this digital options, we would have been completely disconnected from each other. So interestingly, just before COVID hit, we were giving lectures on the harms of social media and the detrimental impact and how this social media is creating a digital isolation, impacting the level of communication, especially for our youth. But then what we saw as soon as COVID hit, that very thing became our lifeline to continue these conversations and relationships, and even in some cases, faith, like participating in faith congregation, Zoom or the social media was the only way. And as Eva said, that social media can also be a great platform for advocacy. But what we are seeing is 7 to 9 hours. An average youth could be consuming social media. So too much of a good thing, right? If, like what we say, even if it's sugar, it's sweet, too much of it can be poison. Anything in excess is poison. So how are we going to come to this point of moderation, where we take the benefit of the development of science, but at the same time protect ourselves? And that's where I talk about culture. So our mind is like a car engine in a lot of ways. We have accelerators, we have brakes, we have frontal lobe that's our kind of keeps the control over things. We have emotional brain that just reacts and wants to react to everything. Interesting that, like an engine, has to be preserved, protected, fine-tuned. Certain things like you avoid for your car, certain things we do to augment it. those very things we are not doing with our minds. It's easier for us that when it comes to our physical health, to think of health and protection and taking care of your physical health is so normalized. So part of our culture, that our South Asian culture, our dietary habits, our exercise, our concept of meditation, yoga, that's being adopted by other cultures. Mindfulness, these are all things that we had inherited, and these are being adopted and adapted by other cultures. But when it comes to our mental health, we are severely lagging behind. The more the need, the limited access we are doing. So we see in the field that even today, stigma, shame, silence that prevails deeply in our societies are the biggest barrier to timely access of care. On the other hand, we see that even if it's worst kind of mental illness that you might be suffering from, early diagnosis, early intervention can decrease your severity and increase your functionality. So early intervention is so very important, but what happens in our society or in our culture or our families, we usually get to a psychiatrist or a mental health provider in state of emergency. What happens? Could be, if you're faith-based community, your faith leaders become the first point of care. Then, God forbid, if you are in some legal situation, then police intervention or hospitalization, or your primary care starts prescribing you meds, which could be beneficial in some cases, but can be detrimental because of their limited expertise. Then comes, so the mental health providers are never, or under very severe, dire situation, they are consulted. So I want to start the conversation with, I will share my screen now. Very basic, I just collected few points. Can you guys see my presentation? Be good?
Yes.
So how do we, and I love what you said about the thoughts, that literally, you know, like every morning, we are more and more in the field realizing the power of your thoughts, to the point you are what you think you are. Is that empowering? And literally now my motto has become that, like every morning as I wake up, and you know how unpredictable Michigan weather can be, you know how you decide, like, am I going to wear warm clothes? Am I wearing casual clothes? What am I doing today? You have to always pick your thoughts for the day too. Because I think half the battle is won if you start to learn to pick positive thoughts, start a day with the model of abundance, not deficit. Because what we see is, if you're going to start with like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so behind, I will never be able to get through the day, or this problem, automatically you're draining your energy, you're putting yourself in a deficit role. So picking your thoughts every morning, starting the thought with the positive thought, and that's where a lot of our faith traditions start the day with a prayer and meditation. What's the concept behind that? That you are de-stressing, you are letting go, you are handing things over to a higher power, you are starting the day with meditation, gratitude, and graciousness, right? That gratitude of what good is happening around us, letting go of the anxiety. So we have these very healthy traditions that we are not making the most of. So Let me see. Yes. So most importantly, I think it is important because I see mental health and mental illness being used synonymously, like exchangeably, like interchangeable, like, oh, mental
So sorry, Dr. Abbasi, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I don't know when I
So
got
sorry,
muted.
so sorry.
So, first of all, I want to start with the difference because I see mental health and mental illness is used very interchangeably, and we have to understand and know the difference. Mental health is about wellness. Mental health is about wholeness, healing. It's the health of your mind. Like we say, healthy body. What is a healthy mind? Mental illnesses are like same way like physical illnesses. They are on a spectrum. Like you get a viral flu, you can get something serious, maybe a bacterial infection, maybe more serious pneumonia, or more serious like a cancer, right? Same way, anxiety, depression, in a moment because of a stressor, an incident, then a recurrent episodes, then more serious like bipolar, and then more serious like schizophrenia, right? But this spectrum, even though from simple situation to a serious situation, again, even with schizophrenia, early intervention is very, very important because that ensures that your functionality, preserving your brain, preserving, and remember, mind is not existing in a vacuum. Mind is sitting within your brain. So anything that happens in your body impacts your mind, and anything that goes wrong with your mind affects your body. And the example is, let's say I'm stressed. When we say we are anxious, we are sad, we are stressed, what is happening? The stress hormone, cortisol, norepinephrine, they are being released in your body, right? So this cortisol then goes on and impact different parts of your body. When you are stressed, your immunity goes down. Your functioning of your, like literally your every part of the body is getting that message that stress hormone is being absorbed. Your heart can get affected, your stomach, the second brain, because most of the receptors that impact our mood and anxiety, actually, most of them are in your stomach. So remember when grandma used to say, heart, way to the heart is through your stomach, through your husband's stomach. Sorry, I'm forgetting that. To get to a man's heart is through his stomach. So yes, because we have a direct impact of what we eat, what gets absorbed in our stomach translates into good mood or a bad mood. That's why when we talk of mental wellness, everything, the whole health comes together. How can we decrease the stress? How can we eat healthy? How can we use exercise? Because when we are doing exercise, we see natural endorphins, natural mood enhancing hormones are released in the body. We also see that social media, what one thing we have done is we have created this noise pollution around us. So if you see an average teenager doing their homework, it's just mesmerizing, right? They have headphones, they have TV on, they have laptops, they have their phones on, and they are getting all this stimuli constantly, right? But what's happening? It's a noise pollution. And what is it costing? It's impacting your brain's neurons. It's impacting your ability to focus. It's like you are unnaturally creating an attention deficit kind of symptoms. On the other hand, I see a hand already raised, so we can, is it something?
Dr. Abbasi, we'll take the questions later on after you are done with your presentation.
Okay. So what happens is that in silence, we now know, the literature tells us that why is silence, some period of silence, quiet is needed for you, is that's where your brain rejuvenates. New neurons are created when you are sitting in quiet and silence with positive thoughts. Not isolation is different than silence. And I will come to it. So now important pieces differentiating between what is mental health and what is mental illnesses. So mental illnesses are health conditions, right? It can affect your thinking, emotion, or behavior. And these can, like Eva also said, cause distress, impair functioning in social situations, work situation, relationships, everything, every part of you get impacted. This is what is scary, right? 1 in 5 adults in US, almost 43.8 million experience mental illness in a given year. And mind you, these are pre-COVID numbers. Numbers have really spiraled. We were already on the precipice of a disaster when it came to mental health. And literally, it's like we are going down in this dark tunnel, and we really need to do something drastically. And that's why even today, though it was a challenging day, I could not miss the opportunity to connect with you all. When I first came here as an immigrant, they said, if you want to make an impact, put a $sign in front of everything. So even if we look in the sense of the lost years of your life, lost productivity of your life, we are losing 193.2 billion in every year to undiagnosed or untreated or disability caused by mental illness. But this is what happens, right? We are told to keep it hidden, keep it within, don't wash dirty linen outside the family. And so, but remember what I have learned, even if you see this picture is so, this is actually very close to my heart, this slide, because this is from 15 years ago when I started this work. This was the first presentation and the first slide I talked about. And I'm still showing this, that things that you think you have hidden and buried, and they don't go away. They continue to grow bigger and continue to haunt you, impact you. So these are turned into a bigger beast because you think you are avoidance is not the way to deal with these situations. So to me, this picture is so profound. So I think what I have learned in my 15 years of this work is that until unless you make things obvious, clear, the needs are not come to the surface, until unless we don't see that what is going wrong, we will not find solutions for it, right? So visibility is viability. And those of you who work in the realm of domestic violence understand that more than ever, right? That till we kept the domestic violence situation hidden, it wasn't going away. It was growing. It was being normalized. It was taken as, oh, it's part of the culture. Men hit or men get angry. How we have validated, how we are normalized those things, right? But now we understand that as we are making it visible, we are talking about it, the more and more women are realizing, no, this is not healthy, this is not right. And remember, we also have to understand that as a community, we have already suffered a lot of traumas from back home, from where we are coming, the chaos, the trauma, the war, or whatever reason we left home, the cultural bereavement that comes from immigration, the trauma for our generation of navigating bicultural identities, now the growing xenophobia in the country towards us, all that is having an impact. And then if within our families we have domestic violence, then remember, it's not only the trauma that is being caused to the mother, you are passing that trauma on to your next generations, because we know that trauma, like genes, travel from generation to generation with more worsening problems as the time goes by, as the generations go forward. See the definition of a stigma. And if it is about your wellness and well-being and taking care of yourself, why should you feel ashamed? If you break our arm and fracture an arm, you don't hesitate in telling me, oh, I fractured my arm. But why do we cannot we talk in the same way about a broken mind, a broken heart, the pain, the anguish? Why should somebody go through it all alone? Because remember, mental illnesses are already very isolating. And what we see, that isolation is the worst risk for increased suicide rate, increased substance use. And what is the cure? The cure is communication and being in community. But then we make it so impossible to be in the community because our communities are not validating, are not accepting, are not inclusive. And there are very like cookie cutter South Asians that are accepted. The model of success is very monetary. We never say, hey, this kid is successful because they are happy, they are doing well. We say this kid is so successful because he made it to this college, or he's a doctor, or he's doing this. Do you know that in our country right now, 1 to 2 doctors take their life every day? 365 to 400 physicians lose their life every year in America. We have to really think about it, what success is, right? We also know that when it comes to mental illnesses, our cultural beliefs, our religious beliefs, the way we were raised, what we think, that is how we would express depression. That is how we will seek cure. This is how we comply to medicines. So for us, our culture, religion, our upbringing, values, belief system plays a major role when it comes to mental health. And that's why it is important to that we understand and create those healthy cultures. We already know that what the research shows, that there's a higher rate of depression in second generation immigrants. And it's very interesting. One father said, what is wrong with this generation, right? We were working 2, 3 jobs and we were never depressed. And what is wrong with these kids? We are providing them everything. And I just said, they are carrying your trauma as well as their own, because you did not take care of your trauma. You did not seek care at that time. You did not acknowledge it. You passed it on to your kids, and now they are carrying the double burden. We already know that bicultural identities are hard. They see one culture, one thing, like American culture is very individualistic. Like none of our countries that we came from had pursuit of happiness as part of the Constitution, right? As your first human right is pursuit of happiness. For me, it took me a longest time. What does it mean, pursuit of happiness? If coming from the cultures, the collective cultures, our happiness is very interdependent. So if I say, if I'm going to pursue happiness, my family has to be happy, my parents, my brother, my sister, my kids. You never think of yourself. And imagine how hard it is for our generation to navigate from that independent model to this interdependent model. And we don't make it easy for them. So that's where the kids get very confused. And it's just one thing, right? There's religious differences, dietary differences, uh, total change, dynamic change that's happening out there, which they are trying to keep up with, to adapt to, and then they come back to, and part of the immigration, what I've seen is that even back home in our countries, things have evolved and changed. But because we came here 30 years ago, 60 years ago, we brought those archaic values with us. And we are still insisting on those values, and when I take kids back home, they are like, Mom, this is not what you taught us, right? So there's a lot of challenges this generation is facing. So on one hand, you have dire needs. On the other hand, what research shows that minority settings, especially South Asians, don't access care at all. South Asian Americans, especially those between the ages, I'm sorry, I have to, it's blocking the slide. 15 to 24 were more likely to exhibit depressive symptoms, higher rate of suicide amongst young South Asian American women than the general US population. Let me repeat that, higher rate of suicide among young South Asian American women than the general US population. And South Asian Americans had the lowest rate of utilization of mental health services. Pretty scary. Already minority status, experiences of prejudice, social and economic disadvantages, communication barriers become a limitable part of our daily life, adversely affecting the immigrant's mental state, right? And then the denial, avoidance, unhealthy coping mechanism can lead to high rates of substance abuse, unemployment, homelessness, or incarceration. So I think I will leave this here and let me stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Abbasi, for that presentation. First, I want to open off with a question. So you mentioned how important early diagnosis and early intervention is. So what are some signs to look out for within your friends and family of poor mental health or mental illness, or even within yourself?
So first of all, Eva, let's separate mental health, right? But it's good. I'm glad you said poor mental health. But let's keep mental health as a wellness criteria and then talk about mental concerns or mental illnesses or mental disorders. So the signs is three ways we look at them. Safety. Are they able to keep themselves safe? Are they indulging in any self-harming behaviors? It could be excessive social media use. It could be excessive drinking. It could be cutting, hitting themselves, rash driving, impulsivity, reckless behaviors. Anyways, those are big issues. Or are they buying guns? Are they cruel to animals, hurting plants, everything, it works all the ways. Are they threatening their friends? Are they getting in aggressive fights? So safety, then comes severity. Like, if they are depressed, are they isolating? Are they not eating? Are they eating excessively? Are they not sleeping? Or are they sleeping whole day? So, what normal behavior should be at that age and what is the variance with them. Then comes the functionality. Are they able to keep up with their relationships? Are they going to classes? Are they completing, showing up for their jobs? Are they showing up to family events? Are they coming to community? Are they showing up for your religious ceremonies? So safety, severity, and functionality.
Eva, you're mute. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that response. And then one more question is, what are the ramifications or the effects of these cultural negative beliefs and attitudes that people hold? How does that affect a person?
So I can give you example because I work very closely with Muslim community. I think a lot of times when you are belonging to a religious community, it comes out as if I reach out and say I'm depressed, then am I saying that my faith is not enough for me? Is mental illness a spiritual weakness? Am I not praying enough? Am I, other thing we have a lot of in our cultures is evil eye, concept of evil eye, that somebody has put an evil eye on you. This is not real. Other thing I see is in immigrant population, what I see is children become trophies. They are extension of our dreams. So we worked so hard, so there's no room for you guys to falter or fail or struggle, because immediately it becomes our failure that, oh, I provided you this. I worked so hard. You should be doing better than this. So a lot of pressure in immigrant population comes that way. But another thing is, I've seen the biggest challenge I had when I was working as a campus academic psychiatrist at Michigan State. When it came to South Asian kids, the first thing they would tell me is, please don't tell my parents. Or even if you do, they won't understand. Like I told you about that father, like what is wrong with this generation? Why are they so weak? Why you have everything? Why are you sad? You are living in a expensive house. You're wearing designer clothes. I'm the one working hard. Why are you feeling depressed? So we don't give them that room to explore. Another thing is, you all are surviving in the main American society, and we are trying to burden you with the values that we brought. So how do you navigate your independent pursuit of what you want to do versus what your parents want to do? Like career choices, relationship choices, level of religiosity, all that. I think we try and impose it very hard. So at the same time, there is a lot of advantages of being in a supportive household where parents are supporting you beyond 18 years. They are providing you financial support, emotional support. So I think what is good has to be made cohesive and inclusive and accepting. And that would take awareness on both sides to navigate that.
So understanding from both sides is crucial. Thank you.
Very crucial, very important. Like as kids, you have to understand the privilege that you are getting and be advocate for yourself. What I see is there is a lot of frustration on the children's part, and there's a lot of anger and resentment on the parents' part, which impacts the communication. If we understand that it's not the rejection of one or the other, it is about talking about that your kids, think of it this way. That's what I talk about is, if we were plants, I was raised in a very different environment. And yes, when I was brought here, I had to adapt, right? But what we see, even in our generation, what we see is, we did a survey of people when they arrive in America, and then their health screening after 15, 20 years. And we should have seen that if immigration is this great, and if you are coming to this beautiful country and American dream, then your health should have been better. But what we see is that in 15, 20 years, the health is actually deteriorated. A lot of immigrant population has diabetes, hypertension, heart, CVA, a lot of health issues, right? Depression, anxiety might not be acknowledged, but is there. So same thing, the first generation has paid a price, and that we kind of is being passed on to second generation as well, the responsibility. because now the parents have sacrificed for you. So you feel the burden that, oh, I have to take care of my parents too. But then the society is telling you, I mean, the pressures on this generation is huge. Your generation has seen 3 wars, economic meltdown, your graduation rates. I mean, I don't know how many of you have seen MSU grad just recently, unemployed and homeless, standing on the streets begging. So on one hand, when I came to this country, they used to say high school is good enough. Then bachelor's was important. Now you have to be specialized. I'm sorry. And the education has become so expensive. And then the unemployment is hitting you guys. So you have your own unique challenges that are happening, but then you also have the challenges of being that intergenerational expectations are there too. So until and unless both parties come with understanding, love, and compassion for each other, communication becomes harder.
Sure.
Thank you for that important information. So a question in the chat reads, if a teenager friend of my child has committed suicide, as a parent, how can I help my grieving child?
First of all, with the new literature coming in, we usually say completed suicide, because when we say committed, we are going towards like crime or sin. So we have to be very sensitive about what terms we are using. I think it is important to have an honest, candid conversation and be active listeners. I think as parents, we get very in this anxiety mode of fixers, that we have to fix this. Maybe you don't need to fix it. You just have to be the receptive parent, listening and just telling the kid that, hey, I understand you are dealing with huge loss. What can I do? How can I support you in your pain? Instead of coming in with like, oh, sahi hua, galat hua, or he should have done this, or she should have done this, or where were their parents? And it's culture, Western culture bringing this problem. Your pop culture is destroying you, or substance use. Don't come with criticism. Don't come with judgments. Come with open arms and love and say, hey, I'm here. I'm very sorry for your loss. I'm here. Tell me, how can I support you in this process?
So having an honest conversation on both sides is really key here.
Communication, yes.
Communication. Okay, and I know there was someone who had raised their hand.
And let me add that, and if you are noticing that it is impacting your kid, then be open with the discussion of, let's seek out grief counseling. Let's seek out therapy. The more you become open and normalize it, that grief can have a deep impact on, like, it's a very individual thing, right? Some kids can rebound more sooner, some might need more help. So be open to that, and not to think of it like your kid is weak or it's your failure, but to be open. Like, if you think they are still struggling and it's impacting their sleep or their functionality, or they are getting depressed, then seek help. It is very important to seek help.
Okay, so don't wait to seek help. Okay. And then I know there was someone who was raising their hand. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, Dr. Abbasi. It's really helpful. We are having such deep conversation over here. I, from a millennial perspective, wanted to know your thoughts about imposter syndrome and how it impacts mental health. Because in this present situation where, environment is so different, coming to, like, speaking from employment perspective, there's every day in the news we are hearing tech giants, they're laying off so many people, and then suddenly, so like a lot of people are jobless and they don't even know whether they will be staying in this country, leaving this country, and they have raised their families and everything was going smoothly, and suddenly this, this news
Yeah,
comes. So
yeah.
how to deal with that, and also this role of imposter syndrome, if you could throw some light on that, will be really helpful.
Yeah. It's, I think it's a part of, again, when you come to a new culture. And also we have to understand this country, this culture has what we say is the white privilege, right? And all of us, and I'm just coming from a training and discussion today, and that's what we were talking about, that look at what is standard in the medicine, what is standard in employment, what is normal and standard in academic setting is very white, right? And we are always catching up with that whiteness. How is success defined in America is how close can you get to this whiteness? And that's why a lot of us struggle like between our authentic selves of who we are versus how should, instead of adapting successfully, we kind of start aping or copying white culture to get to we think that's the ultimate standard of being American, is how white can you get. And I think that's where the imposter syndrome comes, that because anything that's not natural to you, if you are gonna try to act that way, you will feel something is not good, right? Another thing is the sense of inadequacy. Let me tell you, I've studied American system very well. It's a very cruel, very ruthless system. If you were not capable, they will not absorb you. You would not have gotten this job, this degree. And that's what I tell my students, that remember, if a college has given you admission, it's not because they are doing you a favor. It is because they you met that level of expertise and that merit or intelligence, or you are doing them a favor by bringing your talent to them. And I think this sense of confidence will come to us when we kind of go back and embrace our authentic selves. Like, I should not be ashamed of my accent. Why should I be ashamed of my accent? Because English is a second language to me, but still, because we in India and Pakistan went to English medium school, our level of grammar, our level of spelling, our level of writing is higher than an average American student. And this is where I think we have to go back to what are our strengths? Yes, what are the things we need to work on is being comfortable in ourselves, but also not trying. It's very interesting. Integration does not mean forgetting who you are. It is like, how can I augment who I am? And how can I use what is out there to augment and strengthen who I am, who I already was? But yes, we also have to change certain toxic behaviors. And that is what the growth is. So knowing authentic self doesn't mean you are the best. Authentic self means you are a set of strengths and a set of weaknesses. So use your strengths to work on your weaknesses, but not to be ashamed because you belong to certain culture, religion, you dress up certain way, because if a system is giving you a job, it is because they need you, because you met certain standard, because they need that workforce.
Thank you for that response. I really like how you said that Even if you feel imposter syndrome, you wouldn't be there if you didn't deserve to be. I think that's really important to remember. So another question in the chat says, what types of resources are available and how do we find the support resources for mental illness?
So first of all, 988, 988, 988, new crisis hotline. Now you don't have to call 911, you call 988. You can text, you can call. And then I would highly recommend go look at the Michigan website. Governor Whitmer has created peer support groups. There are other crisis hotlines. There is a lot of resources out there. So depending on if you have insurance, you can go through your insurance to find out who your providers are, what does your insurance covers, get familiar with that. If you are uninsured, then get to a community mental hospital, find out what kind of services, resources you have. If you have geriatric population, go to Tri-County Aging to find out what resources and you have. So just be your advocate. There's a lot of support there. There's a lot of resources being, and the whole country is right now very motivated to improve mental health infrastructure. I'm just coming back from DC, where President Biden has announced May 18th as the Mental Health Action Day. And Lansing Mayor I chaired the task force for Lansing, mental health task force. So Lansing Mayor just announced May 11th as Mental Health Awareness Day. So there is also a website being developed by the federal government, which is called Support Mental Health. That also teaches you how to navigate mental health system. Similarly, there's a website being developed at Lansing city. And I hope that that model would be adopted by other cities and other kind of organizations, is how do we navigate the mental health system.
Thank you for that response.
Let me add NAMI also, National Alliance of Mentally Ill, that support the family of those suffering from mental illness. So NAMI is a great resource, look that up too.
So once we have these resources, how can we help reduce the stigma around mental illness?
I think each one of us has that responsibility. Change comes with each one of us changing. All of us have to commit to, are we going to be part of the problem or part of the solution? And imagine the ripple effect. If I believe in mental wellness, mental health, and anytime that I see concerns in myself, my children, my family, my friends, I would be, I can be that agent of change. I can encourage those around us. I can create that safe space that others come and talk to me about mental struggles. And if each one of us in this group right now commit to it, imagine the ripple effect. And that's how the change will come.
Thank you for that response. So another person put in the chat, what are some healthy mental habits and attitudes a parents can do to be a better model for their child?
Sleep, sleep, sleep. We are socially, we have created a jet lag for ourselves. None of us, we are sleep deprived nation, especially the social media is keeping us up late, TV, news, everything is keeping us up late. And then we are not, none of us is getting 8 hours of sleep. So sleep deprivation is now, we know, is as injurious like any other carcinogens. Same way, creating healthy communities, because communication and communities are neuroprotective. Isolation is now we know people living in isolation, it's like they're smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That is how injurious isolation can be. So moderation is the key. Eating healthy, exercising, But I think one policy that I'm trying to adopt in my house is zero tolerance for stress. And remember, anxiety is not a bad thing, but because it was given to us to survive. Remember, if we didn't have anxiety, we wouldn't be fulfilling any of our needs or commitments. Or if we didn't have fear, we would be standing in front of oncoming traffic, right? So the caveman to survive was given all these natural instinct to feel stress, anxious, fear, but moderation is the key. How to navigate it to benefit you. How, so one thing I'll give you an example. There's physiology and there's pathology. One way to understand is that right now, all of us are breathing. Are we aware of it? No, right? That's physiology. If I became aware of that, oh, I'm breathing too fast or slow, then it's a concern that, hey, something is wrong with me. It's turning into pathology. Same way your heart is beating right now, but we are not aware. That's physiology. It's naturally happening in the body. So body has a system that when you will get injured, stressed, that it will release certain hormone, but then homeostasis happen and your body then finds the balance again. But when it becomes pathology, that instead of augmenting you to work more, it starts to paralyze you. That's pathology of depression and anxiety, that instead of making you work more, it's paralyzing you. So moderation is the key. That yes, how can we use anxiety to be high performance, but not to be paralyzed by it. So I think parents can really create healthy models. One thing I would say is, how are you communicating, how the parents are communicating to each other? Especially, I think in our culture, one thing I've seen, we as mothers think that if we don't talk about our problems, that we are kind of protecting our kids. Your kids have very high perception. They're very intelligent. They know exactly when you are sad, when you are depressed, when something is bothering you. Having those healthy communications are important. You are human too. It's okay to sit with them. I'm not saying that you have to give them details about, like, if you're having problem in marriage or with your in-laws, because you don't want your child to carry that burden, but just saying, hey, there are things I'm navigating which is making me sad or anxious. I'm trying to work on it, and tell me how you and I can come together and work on each other's support systems. So learning those healthy boundaries, learning how to, and the more you take care of yourself, the kids would learn to take care of themselves.
So I thought it was really interesting how you mentioned we have anxiety and fear for a reason, but even though they're helpful, how do we manage those emotions? Like, what are some stress coping mechanisms, and how do we just take care of our mental health on a day-to-day basis?
I think few things. We as a culture were told to learn gratitude, right? And now when we look at the 7 habits of successful people, gratitude is number one of the very important piece, right? And gratitude simply means that focusing on what is going well in your life and being thankful for it. And so you might have some things in life and you might not have other things. So focusing on what good is happening, that is being gratitude. Other thing is volunteering, huge part of our culture, taking care of others. So what we know is that when you do an act of kindness, a lot of oxytocin gets released, which is very good calming hormone for yourself. But even if we see someone else doing an act of kindness, same hormones get released. Even if you read about an act of kindness, so, same hormones released. But one thing I think We, as a women of color, were taught like you have to be selfless, right? You have to put your parents above you, you have to put your husband above you, brothers, then children are become a priority. Selfless does not mean less of yourself. So knowing that what is kindness to others has to begin with being kind to yourself. Other thing is when we are taught like forgive others, forgive yourself too. Every day, end of the day, I really sit with myself and say, hey, you did good. You tried, you did your best. You were able to accomplish this. You failed to do this, which is fine. It's okay. We will work on it tomorrow. Being forgiving. Just yesterday, I got a message from a friend that I feel a failure. I'm the worst mother, worst wife. Lot of guilt. We carry a lot of guilt because what happens is like if we want to own your successes like a trophy, then your failures become our failures too. We immediately feel responsible and understand your kids will falter, will have struggles. It's okay. It's okay. If you change the model of success and happiness in your mind, in your life, in your children's mind, then failing a class does not make them a failure. Struggling in a relationship does not make them the horrible person. Or if they are having sadness or anger, it's not the end of the world. Tomorrow is another day. And I believe every relationship can be healed. Every situation can be worked out, but with patience, gratitude, kindness, graciousness, and these are all already present in our culture. We just need to imbibe them again, accept them again. Taking
Thank you.
time. So one thing I teach my students is taking time out during the day. So like as a Muslim, I pray 5 times a day. What was the thought behind it was not that the God wanted the reminder that God is loved 5 times a day, right? Because a lot of people ask me why, like you should be thinking about God whole day. Why 5 times? But what the concept I personally, when I explored it, the concept is that already this health experts are saying, take those breaks during the day. And these 5-time prayers are interposed at a time where your cortisol levels tends to go high. So you take time off, you go clean up yourself. So when you are putting water on your pressure points, you're bringing the stress down. When you're bowing, you're putting your head down, you're meditating, you're doing yoga, and you are detaching yourself from the worldly concerns. So that works for me, but taking those breaks during the day, especially when you know your triggers, know when your anxiety levels are high. So when you feel that I'm getting overwhelmed, just take a break. And break doesn't mean you have to leave your chair or leave, just sitting where you are, closing your eyes. And remember, yoga's big rule is take the breath of life in, deep breathing, because whenever you get anxious, you do shallow breathing. And that's where the perception of anxiety worsens. Just sitting down, closing your eyes, taking yourself to a comfortable, healthy, beautiful environment in your mind and using that deep breathing. That's the best thing to ground yourself.
So just taking those little moments to ground yourself is what is important.
Another thing I learned, so we talk about triggers. I just learned one beautiful word, glimmers. Glimmers are things that bring you happiness, things that bring you peace. It can be a thought, it can be a token, it can be a thing that you can hold on to, it can be a person. I'm sorry. I'm running out of water. So that is, you need to cultivate happiness. But your happiness does not, nobody else holds the key to your happiness. Your happiness lies within you.
Thank you
And
for that response. Thank you.
once you learn that, you know, that I am responsible for my happiness, I can cultivate happiness. I can feel thankful. I can feel kind. I can feel, but I have to, the love that I'm so ready to pour over everyone else, why can't I use some of it for myself? Why can't I first take a shower in my own love, shower myself with the love? So for myself, I would, I love the tube rose. So I periodically would go buy myself, even if I can afford a bunch of it, just to keep next to my bed, or a small candle, or something that music or a prayer, whatever works for you, collect those things. And in the end, whatever the challenges we have, life is beautiful.
Thank you for that response. So we need to work on our own mental health and actively work for it. Thank you. So since it is past 8, I think that will be our last question for the evening. I want to give a big thank you to Dr. Farha Abbasi for her extensive presentation on the effects of mental health. And just as a reminder, if you or a loved one is struggling with mental health, or you just have any more questions that we were not able to answer, please visit maifs.org, which I will put in the chat. And don't forget to register for the My Family Services annual walkathon on June 11th to stop and bring awareness to domestic violence. But once again, a round of virtual applause to Dr. Abbasi for taking the time to put together such a well thought out and thorough presentation. And a big thank you to our audience as well for taking the time to attend and learn more about what mental health really is and the effects that it can have, as educating yourself only helps our community. So thank you all, and we hope you all have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Basi. Thank you, Eva. And thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you so much. And again, heartfelt gratitude for amazing work you all are doing. Thank you.
It was an amazing, amazing talk. So,
I appreciate
so
it.
good. Yeah.
You take care, guys. Don't hesitate to reach out. Anything I can do. Okay? Take care.
Absolutely.